December 2014. Dr. Sue Sisley has arrived in the mile-high state of Colorado. The Board of Health is granting $9 million from a surplus tax collected on medical marijuana to now study its benefits. Sisley wants some of that money so she can set up her own research lab. Sean Kernan is here as well.
I'm a survivor of a lot of the issues you guys are dealing with medical marijuana.
He wants to convince the board that the PTSD and marijuana study should win.
I think it's going to hopefully show what many of us vets anecdotally are experiencing, which is a simple plant that's been around for eons is helping.
And just an hour and a half later, a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously.
There are signs everywhere of a revolution gaining momentum. Mainstream medicine, serious academic scientists, previously so unwilling to dip a toe into the heavily stigmatized world of medical marijuana, are now diving in head first.
All sorts of people came out of the woodwork to try to help us, including VA researchers who are experts with marijuana use by vets with PTSD, and also researchers funded by NIDA who are located at Johns Hopkins.
And now 1 year after the study was approved by the federal government, the plants are now fully grown, brimming with the chemicals that could hold so much promise. But one question still nags at Rick Doblin. Did it have to take so long? For decades, researchers have wanted to speed things up by getting a variety of marijuana strains from places other than the University of Mississippi, even taking the government to court. But every time, they lost. Now, in the midst of this revolution, even that may be changing. Director of NIDA, Nora Volkov.
We started that dialogue with DEA. In order for us to advance the science, we're going to have to be able to provide very specific marijuana product.
I think that would be a huge deal.
Dr. Stacy Gruber knows what a turning point this would be.
Studies that have used marijuana from the government have been very, very helpful, but perhaps somewhat limited, especially as, quote, street product has gone through the roof in terms of potency and strain type. And I think the closer we get to studying real-world scenarios in the lab, the better off we're going to be.
That was fantastic. We're going to come on in and get you out.
A real-world scenario is exactly what Gruber was able to study. She didn't have to get the cannabis from Ole Miss. Patients like Amelia Taylor bought their marijuana from a local dispensary. And now we finally get to see what the impact has been. Her brain on cannabis. Now remember, she's been using marijuana every day for 3 months.
What we see is a very small focus.
Dr. Gruber found no evidence of impairment to Amelia's brain. There was a change over here in the anterior cingulate cortex. It's a part of the brain responsible for decision-making, emotion, and empathy, which could all play a role in PTSD.
Very, very compelling, and certainly leads me to want to look much more closely and much more in depth at this type of process.
Most importantly, Amelia felt better, reporting a 60% decrease in anxiety, something none of her previous medications had ever done. These are exciting results for a research revolution, a revolution that these 3 senators now want to take to the next level.
This bill that we are introducing seeks to right decades of wrong.
March 2015, Democrats Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand, along with Republican Rand Paul, have just proposed the most audacious marijuana legislation in our lifetime. If it passes, it would create a fundamental change in the way the United States views and treats marijuana.
Our drug laws in this country as a whole need a revolution of common sense and compassion.
For starters, it would do something scientists have been begging for: reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to a much less restrictive Schedule 2 controlled substance.
Once you make the class of drugs Schedule 2, you can then research it and find out what are the medical impacts and when can you use it, when does it make sense. So that's what's necessary here. It's so simple.
The bill would also mandate more farms to grow research-grade marijuana and allow greater access to it for those in need, including veterans who would, for the first time, be able to get a prescription for medicinal marijuana from the VA hospitals.
Let's stop the pot hypocrisy. We now have had 3 presidents that have admitted to smoking marijuana. People in public office all throughout the Senate have said, hey, I've smoked marijuana recreationally. How much of a hypocrite do you have to be to say that I broke American laws using pot as a recreational thing, and that I'm not going to support this idea that as a medicine for severely sick people, that they shouldn't be able to access this drug?
It's an important question, a question that I took to the President of the United States.
There's a bill on the floor of the Senate now proposing that marijuana get rescheduled from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, saying it has no medicinal benefit to possible medicinal benefit. Do you support that?
You know, I think I'd have to take a look at the details, but I'm on record as saying that not only do I think carefully prescribed medical use of marijuana may in fact be appropriate, and we should follow the science as opposed to ideology on this issue.
It has been that message all along, throughout our history. Ideology has trumped science often, too often. But every now and then a revolution takes hold and is guided by those unwilling to give up.
We got to keep the pressure on, because the only thing that's getting this thing moved forward is the pressure.
A revolution that has moved so far in nearly 3 years, when we first met young Charlotte and saw her life transformed by medical marijuana. A government who once fought, now supports. A farm once barren, now abundant. Studies once forbidden, now underway, trying to provide scientific proof that could change, and yes, even save lives, like it did for Sean Kernan and his family.
You think it helped save him?
I do.
You know, we've walked down those roads together, and it's been a process that has been by no means fun or painless, but we're here today, and that's kind of how we look at it, and we look at it from the perspective of helping others.
Helping others and changing the world. The marijuana revolution has only just begun.